we are focusing on attachment theory and avoidant parts that might be showing up, causing you to sabotage your dream body.
Welcome to the Body Energetics Podcast. I'm your host, 23-year fitness professional, Lauren Cercione. I started my hero's journey of reconnecting with my inner child to heal my mind-body disorders 14 years ago. In this podcast, I share my 3-step system to renew your mind, regulate your emotions, and regenerate your body. Go to bodyenergetics.com to join my free community where each week we expand on the theme of the current episode so you can reconnect your mind body to restore your physical health and create your desired aesthetic.
Welcome to Body Energetics, episode number 21. We are focusing on attachment theory and avoidant parts that might be showing up, causing you to sabotage your dream body. This falls into the category of renewing your mind of my 3-step system. Now, if this is your first time hearing about the 3-step system, it is because this is one of the few first times that I have been announcing it. I took a little break from social media during the eclipses because they were hitting my moon sign in Libra and my rising sign in Aries. And unfortunately, I had to put down my 16-year-old Shih Tzu. We had to help him cross the Rainbow Bridge because he was not doing well and he was in a very fast decline. So in my little breaky break, what I did was really focus on what was coming up for me that I was ready to let go of. What did I really need to embody to step into the fullest version of myself possible at this point in my life? And what I did is I built an entire system of body energetics that incorporates my 14 years of inner work since I stopped binge eating and my 23-year career, including 10 years of back-to-back certifications for all different ways the body, or all different types of ways to exercise the body. I've been working on putting this together in one system really since 2020. In May of 2020 is when my spiritual awakening started. And when I describe it as like all the lights came on, I was able to interpret the chakras in ways that I hadn't known about the chakras. And I've been putting together my own unique spin on how do we use these metaphysical tools and the spiritual concepts, and how do we really apply them to the body. And part of my focus was to figure out how to take these really beautiful metaphors and apply them to language that we already know. And the two biggest parts of this system is using attachment theory for us to understand how we have detached from ourself, and then how we have gotten insecurely attached to the dream body, which is the reason why the insecurities, sabotage, and resistance show up using the tools, sabotaging results, and ghosting habits. The other thing that I did that is super foundational is taking the work from Louise Hay and other people also who describe the metaphysical meanings of body parts, the spiritual meanings of body parts, and putting them into a system for us to identify our perspective. So our body is the subconscious mind. And when we can look at the body parts that we don't like, it actually has nothing to do with the body part itself, because most likely the thing that you don't like about the body part at hand is really sexy in another culture. So that tells us right away that our insecurities or our dislikes are purely a cultural thought. And what that means is our thoughts are held in the body. And when we are dipping our toe into the metaphysics and understanding our habits, we learn terms like subconscious and unconscious. Well, that means that the reasons why are under the radar. They are out of your conscious awareness, which is why it's so hard to change them until you do the subconscious and unconscious work. Well, a very fast way to get to those unconscious beliefs that trigger your subconscious patterns are held in the body. So we could actually use the body as a map to the unconscious and the subconscious brain. And we are the conscious driver to use the map and everything that I have designed for you. So the three-part system is renewing your mind. We use attachment theory, like I just described, as well as the body energetics coding system, which is using the body parts. And we're regulating our emotions with nervous system work and inner child work. And then we're also regenerating our body with things like healthy eating or tracking our macros, doing Fletcher, doing Pilates, corrective exercise, bodybuilding, or strength training. There's only three parts, and you get to choose the path that you want to do to renew your mind, to regulate your emotions, and to regenerate your body. And those three steps have tools for each one of those outcomes within the body energetic system. So if you go to bodyenergetics.com, that's at energetics with an X, you will be forwarded to the platform. You just click the join membership. It's free, and you'll go to the classroom and then open up the very first module, and you'll learn all about how I have the system laid out for you, where you could win coaching on the first Saturday of each month. Now, for the podcast, I'm very excited about this because each week I'm going to teach you an aspect of how to renew your mind, how to regulate your emotions, how to regenerate your body. And then in our community on the school platform, it's called school.com is the platform. Once we're in the community, we're going off of Facebook. I don't even really post on Facebook anymore. I'm doing away with the Facebook group that I've talked about on other episodes. What we're doing is having a deepening conversation within our community based on the podcast episode. And so this is where I'm going to share more of behind the scenes of what I specifically did to renew my mind, regulate my emotions, or renew my body. In this way, you can really understand on a deeper level how these principles and tools and concepts apply for your own use. So I'm very excited to share that with you. Go to bodyenergetics.com to join the community. We officially open on Monday, May 6th. And there is an option to do paid coaching with me if you want to have weekly group coaching calls or a weekly private coaching call. And if you go to the link in my bios before May 6th, you'll be able to get links to join the group coaching at a discount. But I want you to know there is always going to be a free aspect of the platform. So whatever time you're listening to this episode, just go to bodyenergetics.com, click join group, and you'll be able to dive in and use the system and deepen the conversation. Since finally getting everything into a system for you, it's like my brain opened up and I was able to relax and really hone in on the deep why we're going to want to do some of the principles and tools that I'm sharing with you, especially for your mindset and your emotions, because our mind and our emotions are the fuel for us to follow through and really to even attract the right system and tool for our outcome. If we're wanting to get stronger, if we're wanting to get more flexible, if we're wanting to enhance our shape, if we're wanting to lose weight, or if we're wanting to just create a better relationship between us and food. That's all the tangible stuff that we all know about. But the reasons why you haven't found the right thing for you, or you ghost your habits, or you go out into an all-out sabotage is mental emotional. And mental emotional work is the work that most people don't want to do. So what we're talking about today within renewing our mind is a new way for us to look at our patterns. Because a lot of times when we sabotage ourselves, when we go into a binge or we just backslide, we stop showing up to the gym, stop, eating healthy, we feel really bad about ourselves. We have a lot of shame and guilt. And that is something that we have to learn how to analyze so that we can see it as an energetic component, as an emotion that we can change and that we can work on in other areas of life so that we don't take out our negative feelings on our dream body. So today we're talking about why you would avoid your dream body, because we could all be like, wait a minute, why would I avoid it? Why would I sabotage if this is the thing that I want? Well, there's fears associated with you becoming that dream. And so we're going to talk about some of those fears and really see if you can relate to them. I'm going to share with you some ways to work through them, but also keep in mind we can deepen the conversation together in the body energetics community. So some of the reasons why we would want to avoid our dream body is if you don't get into your dream body, you won't get unwanted attention, sexual and otherwise. If you don't get into your dream body, you won't be called selfish. If you don't get into your dream body, you won't feel selfish because of all the no's you have to say to other people and other things. If you don't get into your dream body, you don't have to make time for all the changes that need to happen. You don't have to eliminate anything from your life if you don't get into your dream body. Another reason that you don't want to get into your dream body is that you don't want to get obsessed with the tools or lose sight of what's quote unquote really important slash less superficial. And what comes to mind, I don't know if you remember this, there was a billboard of a woman who had like 5 or 6 kids. She was really fit. I think she was wearing black shorts and a red crop top and a flat, muscular stomach. Like this girl had muscles. She wasn't just skinny, she had muscles. And there was this big controversy. And she was like an ad for a gym, I think. And it said, "What's your excuse?" And the controversy was that she was shaming people for not prioritizing themselves when here she has all these children. There's a different scenario for everything. And I do believe that there is a certain amount of self-abandonment for children because they are our responsibility. However, I understand her point that if she can prioritize herself, if she can arrange her schedule, probably have a bit of delineation of the child rearing activities, support, she was able to work on herself. And then also, she probably had a very particular mental, emotional mindset that allowed her to not use sedentariness and food to relieve her stress. She probably was doing something else to manage her mental emotional stress. But my point in sharing this with you is that there was a huge controversy in the fitness space online about how she was shaming people. And I don't think that that was the point of doing it. But what I'm sharing is that that is a big fear that a lot of women have, especially moms, that if they look a certain way, it must mean that they are selfishly taking away from their children. So these are all very good reasons to not want your dream body where the avoidant parts are showing up. I wanted to share some of my fears because the fears that I had to unload made me go into my natal chart, made me go into my gene keys, my human design, where my Lilith is, where my Chiron is. And this is all a segment that I just mentioned. These are all a segment of the dream body portion of the body energetics community. When I looked at my charts, because of how I was feeling about my fears, if I were to get into my dream body, I created a bigger understanding and a bigger context for what my physical body is here for. And I believe that my physical body is here to teach energetics, to teach separation, and to teach people how to bring ourselves back together to heal. Because most of my actions have been fear-based, and it's probably that way for most people. But my hero's journey had to do with first binge eating stopped working. I got diagnosed with PTSD. Then I had my cervical disc herniations and learned about the divided mind. Then I had inflammation and I really learned about how emotions are stored in the body and projected onto the tools. But each thing that I did was fear driven. I was trying to get out of pain, either emotional pain, physical pain, or digestive pain, but pain. Pain and fear were my driver because not knowing the healing tools kept me in pain. And being on the other side of it, what I've learned is how the mind splits from right to left, how it shows up in the opposite sides of the body of where the brain moves the body, how the three parts of our mind, unconscious, subconscious, and conscious mind, get separated, how the mind and the body and the heart get separated. So I believe that's what my body is here for, because those are the experiences that I had. And then in my charts, they all line up with the emotion that I felt and that I was running from. That emotion has a specific place in certain areas of my chart that makes sense for my perspective and the themes of my life. And this is why body energetics and teaching this and putting this together of a physical and non-physical energetic fitness system has been so important to me, because what I learned about the body had nothing to do with what it looked like, which was my problem 14 years ago when I would binge eat. When I got through binge eating, it became, what can my body do? What's my performance when I got into strength training? But then when I hurt my neck, I was like, well, I can't really move. Now, what is my body here for? And I really just feel like the body is here for our soul to have the experience in the 3D field where perception of separation is experienced. I am vibrating at a different rate than my notebook so that I do not fuse together with my notebook. But in this perspective of separation, we have a fear of death because of separation, because if we were an infant and we were left alone in the forest, we would die by a predator or the elements. Ding, 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 ding. So this is why this stuff is really important to me to share with you and to go into so much depth, because in my heart of hearts, it's the depth of our pain that we connect with and create that understanding of, oh my God, if I look at my body in a different way, my pain, my emotional pain that's manifesting in disease, illness, flares will reverse itself, will self-heal. So I'm going to share with you something that that was very difficult for me, and it was being colonized fitness. And if you Google images, I don't know what it's like in 2024, but when I was doing my own decolonization work to really look at my privileged bias of being white, I came across colonized fitness. And at the time, this was like in 2016. At the time, when you would Google women in fitness, they're all white women. And so for women who are not white, they're like, well, where are we? And it really opened my eyes of like, oh shit, like racism is literally everywhere in every industry. And so that really stuck with me, because then when I went through my inflammation healing, when I started using macros, and when I was really intentional on like, I will have a six-pack, what happened in my mind was, I'm 5'2", I'm white, I got kind of blonde hair. And if I get thin enough, quote unquote, thin enough to reveal the six-pack, if I lose enough fat to show a six-pack, I will be on the outside looking like I wanted to be skinny. Because there was this other thing in colonized fitness that I came across a few years later that was talking about how specifically white women, when we got into spirituality, we got thinner and thinner. So there was this whole weird thing around how the body dysmorphia came about, and women were eating less meat, going vegan. And the more spiritually evolved they got, the skinnier they got. So in my head, I'm like, I can't be this person. Like, this is not who I am, but this is how I'm going to be perceived. And I had a very deep conversation with somebody in November before I knew I was going to start dieting again in January. And I was practically in tears. And I was like, look, this is what I am afraid of. I am so anxious of starting my diet to really focus in on this and, like have your planned cheat meals. Like I was ready to be like very regimented. And I was very regimented. But I expressed my fears that this is what I'm going to be or perceived to be. And the conversation came around to that's not your problem. You're you. You have a goal because you would like to see a six pack. It doesn't matter what the perception is to everybody else. I'm like, are you sure? Is it okay? You promise? It's like, yes, I promise it'll be okay. So I wanted to share that with you because this is the depth of how fearful we could be of other people's perception. Because for me to be perceived that way meant that I was separating myself or I was alienating other people who didn't look like me. And so therefore, what I was selling in fitness would be a false bill of goods because nobody would end up looking like me based on doing what I tell them to do. And that mindset is a marketing mindset and a sales mindset that here is the results I am promising you by doing this program. And there are a lot of fraudulent fitness people who talk about get my booty, get my this, get my that. Well, that's based on genetics. That's based on someone's stress levels, how much they're sleeping, if they bought implants. So I really was torn that how would I actually sell body energetics and sell macros or sell a fitness program? Because the idea is I'm going to look like this fitness person selling this fitness product. So if there are a lot of people who are not 5'2" and white, how is that actually going to come across? And that's something that also like sabotaged my business because it took so long to separate brain, thoughts, inner work tools from the outcome that they gave me, enhancing my genetics. You follow? We can deepen this conversation. My other fear was making marginalized bodies, quote unquote, marginalized bodies, people feel bad. And I have looked into a lot of the US government's marketing, advertising, propaganda around fitness. And there was a lot of stuff after 2020 that said you were a white supremacist if you were exercising. And, years after C19, exercise became part of the list that said to help recover faster or not get it at all, to have your immune system so well built that you didn't even get it. Well, when C19 was first out, people like me who were like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. If we exercise and take care of our body, we will be okay. We were deemed as othered. And the marginalized bodies movement, really from body positivity, which you have to be a certain size to be in the body positivity community. It's not even an inclusive community. And a lot of these people are dying under 30 from the complications of obesity. But the advertisement from the top down, from the government down, where in the fitness industry, there is a lot of rebellion around eating healthy and eating quantities of food that are adequate to keep your body functioning. Like the rebellion of being fit and looking a certain way and fitting into the marketing prototype in fitness, the rebellion has gone so far to be unhealthy in another way. Right? Like in the 80s, there was lots of bad stuff happening behind the scenes for people who were fit, of what they were doing to stay fit and thin. A lot of bad stuff in that direction, but now we're all the way on the other side of it. So this again was just something that made me feel really fearful because of the problems that we had in 2020 and even now still around our identity politics, that how much when I embody my dream body more and more and more and get lean enough to see a muscular abdominal region, how much am I going to fall on the other side of the propaganda that says what I'm doing, who I am, and what I'm preaching is actually harmful and mean? So that was another reason why I was preventing my dream body from happening. Now, I want to share how I released those fears. I recognized my fear of colonized fitness was from a core memory around race. And this is the part of our work that gets to the depth of the mindsets that we have preventing us from following through or sabotaging, or our body rebelling, getting sick, injured, or flared when we hit a milestone or we reach the goal, or even when we just set the goal. I had an experience when I was 13 that lasted for 3 years. It was very challenging. I lost all my friends at one point and had to learn how to make new friends. But it was really challenging. There was a lot of hurt feelings for a lot of people. But when I put it together also that the colonized fitness was also because of experience I had at a formative age, I had to go back to that and really investigate and like take responsibility and let go of the meaning that I made that experience about me and about my worth. How I released the fears, I recognized that a core memory sent me down a soul healing path where I wanted to know more about colonization. This is really important because in our time right now, we're in an awakening. Astrophysicists have said that we get different synchronistic energies from different star systems every 5,000 years. And there is something called the astrological year that happens every 25,000 years. And we moved into the zodiac sign of Aquarius on December 21st in 2020. So we are in a different energetic cycle. Whether we're right at the beginning or if we're in the midst of it, we're certainly not at the tail end of it. We're in the beginning stages of it. It's probably going to take several decades or 100 years to build a new civilization. But the purpose of this is that the inner child work that we're doing, that's very popular right now, to look back on how we formed our emotional identity and how we form our attachment. We're looking at that, recognizing that we learned from our parents and they learned from their grandparents and on and on and on. Same thing for the social constructs. So when we take a look, whatever race you are, when we take a look at colonization, we get a better understanding of the cycle of abuse. And the cycle of abuse is something that we can choose to end, whether it's within ourselves with attachment theory and the inner child work, or whether it's how we feel about the collective. And so the deepening of this to start with my dream body of I'm afraid to have the six pack because I'm going to look like colonized fitness. I had this core memory that happened around race when I was 13. And also these things that are in my body, stored in my body, are here for this time to try to start to rectify some of the atrocities that have happened through colonization. Colonization is barbaric, and it's based on making another group subhuman. It's not okay. But that was the way things were and are. It is still here. And the more that we can start to really look at this and change the energetics around it within ourself and how we are interacting with people and ourself, that's how we start to build the new civilization. It starts with individuals. How I release the fears again, getting grateful that I had all my body parts, limbs, and locomotion working properly, and trusting there was someone perfectly designed to help them, that I was perfectly designed to help someone, and that who I am is enough for the people I'm here to help. So this was a big one because I kind of would start to try to figure out a different way of doing fitness for someone who didn't have an arm or who was in a wheelchair. And I was like, I can't. Like, that's not my wheelhouse. Like, there's fit people who don't have an arm and who are in wheelchairs. Like, that's their lane. What's my lane? My lane is understanding mental emotional manifestation in the body. Stay there. And that made me realize, okay, well, there is someone out there that suffers in their body the same way I have. There's someone out there who's binge eating. There's someone out there with chronic pain. There's someone out there who has had a psychosomatic injury. There is someone out there who has dealt with inflammation. There is someone out there who sabotages and ghosts their habits when things get hard. I can help that person. So again, facing my fear of my dream body allowed me to deepen this experience. How I release the fears, valuing my genetics and trusting people are wise enough to know that they will transform into their enhanced version of their body. So this was a big one for me too, because in my charts, money is not a driver. Money is not the thing that drives me. I give away so much stuff for free. I give away my expertise for free all the time in conversations. And the how this like screwed with my head was that I like stopped myself from owning my expertise and stop myself from creating a scalable business and a very clear path for you, right? Like we've got the big ideas from the podcast. Now that I finally created my system, you have access to it for free and you win coaching. And then now the podcast is, let's talk about this week. And if you want to deepen it, go post in the group. Let's talk about it. So I have a very clear, defined path for people to transform. But because I was so afraid that I would do false advertising by selling a fitness product and not having somebody's body come out like mine, because I got a really nice booty, even though I don't do hip thrusts because hip thrusts hurt my back. But I can't guarantee someone's going to get a butt like mine because my butt's my butt based on my genes and my skeletal structure and how my muscles are, how my muscles attach from my sacrum to my femur bone. But I'm going to start to trust that people understand that they're going to enhance their body and their genetics using the mental emotional tools. I also release the fear by being conscious of my language, messaging, and marketing to sell tools, how I feel and support, not a promised outcome of aesthetic changes. So again, this is just another one like being in the fitness industry that I can't promise the physical result because that's your genes and your stress and your sleep and blah, blah, blah. So some of the things that I want you to think about, and then especially if you think about this, come to the group and post it, is who do you need to be to do the things necessary to achieve your goal? Who do you need to be? And it's very easy to just look in the mirror and be like, who am I now that is not aligned with who I need to be to get to that goal? Changing your body requires you to change who you are because your body is a manifestation of thoughts and feelings that have their own effect on health and habits that shape the physical form. So what is the dominant thought? What is your dominant feeling? Like if you're not paying attention, if you're not being stimulated, who are you? Are you sad? Are you anxious? Are you angry? Because those are the energetics that we have to balance and neutralize and extract the power out of so that you can step into your dream body. Is who you need to be someone who is perceived as not good, too much, or not enough? These are three categories that we can really create a summary umbrella of mental emotional identities that we created in that 0 to 18 months, or anytime something happened to us that we had a traumatizing experience. So trauma is the emotional experience within the body. It's not the actual thing. So anytime not good, too much, or not enough were created, you might be your dream body in whatever category that is. To where, I mean, I'll go for me. I'm not enough because I'm not shredded. How can I possibly teach people about dieting if I myself am not shredded? Too much. Is my system too much? When you walk in to the bodyenergetics.com system, are you going to freak out and say it was too much? It needs to be simplified. Even though I told you it's really just 3 things. And within the 3 things, there's tools. Not good. Am I not good because I have not stuck with just one thing in fitness? Am I not a good fitness professional to just make my expertise in one thing? No, because I don't believe that it's just one thing that's the tick the box thing. It's everything. It's everything all at once. So your dream body may actually mean that you will be the identities that you have created that say you're not good, you're too much, or you're not enough. But because you do the mental emotional work, you could very well be in that identity, but you will be in the power of it instead of the pain. Before we wrap up this podcast, we're going to talk about avoiding disappointment. Disappointment is a big one for us because there is so much expectation on the dream body. So I want to plant a couple of seeds for you, invite you again to the Body Energetics community where we can deepen the conversation, and you should go to the attachment theory portion of the schoolroom so that you can look at where this might be showing up for you. We want to think about, what does not achieving the goal say about you? And there's a couple of scenarios that this comes out in. Whether you did everything right and it still didn't work. If you do everything right to get to a promised outcome of your dream body and it doesn't work, how is that going to make you feel? Whether you didn't do a good enough job, didn't do it perfectly to achieve it, and you are disappointed with your performance. So say you're in a 16-week program, that's 4 months. If you have in your mind that you're going to be 10 pounds lighter at the end of 4 months, you're going to be able to deadlift 135 pounds, or you're going to be able to do 10 chin-ups in a row, whatever your outcome is at the end of 16 weeks, and it's at the end of 16 weeks and you aren't able to do the goal, then you reflect and you're like, well, out of 3 workouts a week, 5 out of the 16 weeks, I only showed up to 2 workouts. I was committing myself to macros, and I had several days over the 16 weeks that the wheels fell off and I just ate everything. But then the other 6 days I was doing them perfectly. How will you judge knowing that you didn't do it perfectly if you get to the end of the 16 weeks and you don't hit your goal? How is that going to make you feel? Not winning a challenge or competition and letting other people down. So a lot of times we post on social media when we enter a challenge so that we can have that accountability. What if we are really unhealthy and the doctor has said, for your life, you need to lose 30 pounds. For your life to not have type 2 diabetes, you have to change your diet. You have to do a 180 on your diet. What if you have people looking up to you, if you have children looking up to you that are relying on you to make these changes to improve your health, to sustain your life, which means they are sustained in certain capacities as well? What if you don't do it? What if at your next 3-month checkup, nothing has changed in your blood work, you haven't changed your diet, you're getting these sugar crashes because you're not changing your food? How will you feel disappointing them? Especially if they have an awareness that you're doing something for your life itself, and they see that you're not valuing your life. which in turn could make them feel like they're not as important to you as the parent and as the child. How would that make you feel? So avoiding the disappointment, avoiding giving it all you got, avoiding taking even one step forward into the dream body, making a commitment and not getting the outcome, that will be really disappointing. So how will you feel in that disappointment? That's something that you can think about in your avoidance. So there's other emotions, obviously, that we could be avoiding, because on our way to the dream body, in order to prioritize ourselves, make the time, put down other commitments, delegate responsibility to other people, however that looks to you, remove yourself from social media, not watching so much stuff, taking time away from distractive stimulus and doing inner work, you will face sadness. You will face your anger. You will face your disappointment. You will face your feelings of not good enough, your feelings of too much, your feelings that you're a bad person. You will start to judge these feelings. You will start to argue on behalf of the feelings to say why the dream body is not that important for you to reach. You will face all of those. And so those are major avoidance patterns on our way to the dream body. So if this was helpful, share the episode if this was helpful, give a 5-star rating and review, but head over to bodyenergetics.com, that's energetics with an X, so that we can expand this conversation. I'll help you with the tools, and you'll really be able to start to transform your energy, which will transform your sabotage and your resistance to your dream body, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And in the attachment theory area of the classroom, you'll see stuff about how the conscious and the unconscious sabotage and resistance is manifesting. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you on the next episode, and I'll see you in the community.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you found it helpful, please give me a 5-star rating and review. Share it with your friends. Tag me on social media at Body Energetics with an X or at Lauren Cercione, and I'll reshare you to my story. We'll see you in the Body Energetics community at bodyenergetics.com.